Remember yesterday, everybody was like, Game Pass sucks. It's not profitable. Well, guess what? I was right. We did a video yesterday. Go check it out where I went over why the talking points around Game Pass were incorrect. And the founder of Arcane, it felt like there was more there, that he had this animus towards Microsoft and Xbox. Maybe he has some personal beef with Phil Spencer. I don't know. But he was wrong about Game Pass. And I'm here today to tell you, I told you so. Guess what? Xbox haters, they're eating crow today. They were wrong all along because profits are soaring in 2025. Even when you take into account lost sales from first-party studios, Game Pass is making money, confirmed. And the doom and gloom crowd that we talked about yesterday that's happened over the last couple days looks absolutely ridiculous. Egg on their face. And so in today's video, we're going to talk about how I was right, why I was right, and why Game Pass isn't just alive, it's actually thriving. What? That's a leap too far. You're jumping the shark there. No. I thought that they were having success and not even thinking that they were necessarily profitable. They're definitely having success if they're already profitable this early on. That's insane in a disruptive, scalable tech that is Game Pass. It's insane. Absolutely insane. We're going to go over all that today. We're going to talk about the details here, what has happened in the last 24 hours, and the clarification that we got from a journalist who said, I need to clarify. I got corrected here. It looks like Game Pass is actually profitable. Before we do, though, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. We got videos dropping like this all the time. If you like what we're doing here, number one, consider becoming a member. Hit that join button below. Also, subscribe to my newsletter. Every Thursday, you get so much I told you so rightness in your inbox. It's insane. Subscribe to my newsletter. A link is in the description below. Okay, let's jump into this. So, over the last couple days, ever since the Xbox layoffs, this conversation about Game Pass has been creeping up. And you can see this conversation take place here. Derek Strickland, I'm seeing more devs talk about Game Pass. This was July 5th. People are responding to him. One person says it's very profitable. Another person says it's questionable if it's profitable. They just X 2,000 people. Seems like it's not profitable in my opinion. And this is the key. On July 6th, Christopher Dring jumps in. He's the editor-in-chief and co-founder of The Game Business. Again, make sure you go follow him. He basically came out and said on July 6th, yeah, it's not profitable, guys. Here's what he said. So costs associated with the Game Pass business is fees paid to third parties, marketing service costs, and by that measure, it's profitable. So he says, if you just take into account third parties, so the cost it is to get third parties on your platform, what you pay them for that, the cost to run Game Pass with servers and stuff, and then marketing, yes, it's profitable just by those metrics. He goes on to say what makes it not profitable is when you take into account first-party studios. So here's what he says. What they don't count, Microsoft, he says what Microsoft doesn't count is the lost revenue that Xbox's first-party studios are seeing as a result of the service. In other words, you have a first-party studio, their game, Microsoft's game, drops day one on Game Pass. They're losing money because that could be, in theory, that could be sold for dollars on Xbox. Instead, it's dropping day one on Game Pass. He says, I have to imagine if first-party studios received similar compensation that third-party studios do, that profitability might not be correct. So he's saying if they don't, basically he's saying it's an accounting trick. That because Xbox doesn't count their first-party studios in the same way, that Game Pass is not profitable. And so this discussion ensued over the coming days, and we covered it yesterday with the founder of Arcane Studios, who really went off on Game Pass and was like, they're lying to us. Look at these new numbers that are coming out. And I went over it yesterday. Go check it out. He has a short-term view of it, and I didn't even know these numbers. I'm just taking it as like, okay, disruptive tech isn't profitable for a while. That's like the norm in the tech industry. Why would this be any different? Well, guess what, guys? It ends up that everyone was wrong. It's profitable after all. Christopher Dring actually got called by the overlords at Microsoft and his sources and said, dude, you're wrong. Let's go over this. And got to give him credit for clarifying it. Great job. I mean, go follow him. Go check out The Game of Business and go from there. Here's what he said. Okay, I need to correct/clarify something. First, Xbox Game Pass is profitable, even when you factor in the lost sales for its first-party teams. Sources who would know have told me. Let me reread that again. Game Pass is profitable, even when you factor in the lost sales for first-party teams. So his entire thesis from a few days ago, completely incorrect. He says it is indeed profitable. And he says this was before Xbox. Should we go over the whole post? Let's go over the whole post just so that we have full context here, because I hate when people don't go over. I was going to skip to the end, but let's go over everything. He says, over 18 months ago, I checked with Xbox about what's included in the Game Pass P&L. Basically, that's profit and loss for those that didn't take accounting. I took managerial accounting, FYI, in college. That's where I know that, profits and loss. Basically, I was looking to see if Game Pass costs factor in the impact to unit sales of their internal studios. I was told that first-party games have their own profit and loss separate to Game Pass as they make money via other means. This means via microtransactions, etc. I felt this piece of internal accountancy might mean Game Pass is profitable, but it sure does put pressure on the margins for its internal games and possibly means some studios don't make as much profit or any profit at all. So he's talking about why he came to that conclusion there in his previous tweet, because of what he was told, because they have their separate profit and loss accounting that takes place there, that, he assumed that means that it doesn't, that Game Pass is not actually profitable in the whole, only when you take into account third-party studios. That he says, continuing, that doesn't actually matter in real terms, but seeing the impact Game Pass was having on first-party games and the amount of money Xbox was spending on studios, I wanted to check if the full impact of the service was being considered in their Game Pass is profitable line. He puts in parentheses here, this was before Xbox started publishing fully on PS5. Studios can now make stronger margins on premium sales as a result of that move. That's something we've talked about here on this channel all along. Literally, selling the game over on PlayStation is helping to subsidize your Game Pass subscription. It's a genius move from Xbox. It makes complete business sense. It makes complete consumer sense. It makes complete Game Pass marketing sense. In that, well, again, we've gone over this before, but I'm a Forza fan now because Forza releases over on PlayStation 5. The next Forza is dropping. I really, really want it. I've been converted to the game. I'm a diehard fan. Instead of paying $70 over on Xbox for that, or over on PlayStation 5 for that game, I will subscribe to Game Pass. Probably Game Pass for PC if I'm a PlayStation guy, but maybe not. Maybe I get an Xbox and I'm subscribing that way. Regardless, it's a great marketing play. He says, regardless to all that, now that they're being sold on PS5, sources have reached out to tell me that even when you include lost revenue associated with first-party games, not just unit sales, but microtransactions. So when you include everything lost that could come from selling the game separate outside of Game Pass is still profitable. So that's great. He says, right, Tony Hawk is out. Let's get back to that. So basically, the whole discussion we've been having for the past few days is because Xbox haters and Game Pass haters and people with personal beef behind the scenes are leaping at any opportunity to hate Xbox. But wait, X1, aren't you leaping at any opportunity to defend Xbox? I mean, I guess, but not really. I am not blindly jumping in. And this is the mistake that I see in comments made. Well, you're just so positive about this all the time. I can't remember the last time you criticized Xbox. Well, it's because I believe in what they're doing. I think that they're right with this Game Pass model. And most of the criticism that I'm defending or that I'm pushing back against is on the ridiculousness about Game Pass and Xbox and the freaking out, the outrage that has happened over the last few days. And it's like, guys, are you not paying attention to this? Xbox isn't hiding the ball here. They're not operating in a vacuum. Here's what's happening. Here's what they've said is happening, and here's what's happening in the greater industry, in the entire industry. Here's what's happening economics worldwide. And so mostly I'm pushing back against that. Doesn't mean that I don't have criticism. Doesn't mean that Xbox is perfect. By no business is perfect. But it does mean I am satisfied with my Xbox Game Pass subscription. I am satisfied with Xbox. I am more than satisfied with their first party studios. And I do get frustrated when people come out and they jump at the chance to crush Xbox. When they don't do that necessarily, or it seems, let me qualify that, it seems like they don't do that as hard for other consoles in the space. And also they're just wrong. Like when they're just wrong, I'm going to call them out. You're just wrong, dude. You have this short-term view. It's like yesterday, the Arcane studio founder. He was just wrong, and clearly, and that was before we knew this. He was wrong just from it seemed like he had a short-term profit perspective versus a long-term perspective there. And on that, he's 100% wrong. He's even more wrong now with this news that, guess what? Game Pass is profitable, everybody. The problem with social media and the social media bros in 2025, and I've said this repeatedly, is they live in the now. Now, what is happening right now? 24 hours ago, 48 hours ago, before this post was clarified and dropped, everybody was raging about how Xbox Game Pass was not profitable, and that's the now. Instead of taking a step back, say, wait a minute, well, let me see the numbers. Let me see the numbers. Also, does it matter? Is there a long-term vision here? Is major disruptive tech profitable this early on typically? What is the end goal here? And are they reaching those goals? Nobody asks those. Everybody lives in the now, and what is the now is the most important, and doom and gloom, and oh my goodness, the world is ending. Take a step back, guys. Take a step back. We're bound to get clarification. We're bound to learn stuff. And try to have a larger vision. Don't get caught up in the weeds. I think a lot of gaming journalists have been falling for this lately. I think a lot of online content creators fall for this lately. I think this latest episode of Xbox Outrage is further proof of that. And it's something that I'm really struggling with. I'll be perfectly honest. I am very much struggling with, who do we trust? I think you got to trust yourself. I think you got to be able to take in all the information from all the different sources and say, okay, I think this is right. I don't think this is right. This guy seems like he has an axe to grind. This guy doesn't. But maybe this guy's not as knowledgeable as this guy. So what is correct here? I also think that we should start to unfollow. I think we should call for people when they're wrong. It's great. Like Christopher Dring. He was wrong. Does that mean you should unfollow him? Absolutely not, because he corrected his mistake. He said, oh, guys, hey, wait, I got this wrong. This is someone I can trust. You don't need to always be right. You don't need to not have biases either. I expect everyone to have biases. I have biases. What you do need to do is be able to recognize your biases and recognize when you're wrong. And if you can do that, then you know what? You have trust. You're honest. And so much of that is missing. So many gaming journalists, especially content creators, less so, but even content creators. But gaming journalists especially don't recognize their own biases. It's why they all jump on something right away. It's like, wait a minute, do you have a bias there? Ask how politically diverse the mainstream gaming journalists are. How politically diverse they are. And that's all you need to know. And that doesn't mean that you're right or wrong if you voted a certain way, but that's indicative of they never get checked on their own biases. And if you think that exists just in politics, it exists in sports, and that carries over to gaming. Everyone thinks the same way. Everyone views things the same way in the industry. That's not good. And that creates exactly what happened. These echo chambers of outrage that have happened. Just know your biases. Understand them. I try to do that. Perhaps I fail sometimes, but I fully recognize. Yes, I agree with this. I agree with this direction that Xbox is going. So that's going to have a certain amount of biases to that. I enjoy certain games. That's going to carry with it a certain bias when I talk about certain types of games. Recognize those bias, and I think you avoid a lot of the egg on your face that has happened the last couple of days. And don't just take anyone's word for it. Don't take my word for it. Go do your own research. Maybe you agree with me. Maybe you don't. Maybe you disagree with me. Let me know in the comments below on any of those, though. But let me just finish with this. I told you so. Oh, it feels so good. And you guys who rode with me this whole time through the turbulence, you joined me. We told you so. We told the Xbox Game Pass haters, guys, wait a minute, what are you doing here? What is going on? And we ended up being right. So give yourself a pat on the back, clap. We stayed above the noise. We stayed above the fray, baby. Like, subscribe, share us with your friends. Also, sign up for my newsletter. Sign up for my newsletter. It's down below. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.